Um, so I was just like processing through all of this, and yeah, like I said, was I was still employed, but I had no work. So during this time, all I did was pray. Like all I did was pray. And there was something interesting when I during this time as I prayed. So it was on the 17th of June, and when I was praying, I saw three images in my mind. The first one was a heart that was split in the middle, and each severed part was going in opposite directions. And the second image was a yin yang, the circle in the middle of the Korean flag. I saw that. And then the last image was an image of a pine tree, or to me, it looked like a Christmas tree. And again, I'm showing you this because I think it's going. You'll see how it's going to align as the year goes along. Um, and then so that has happened. And then a couple days later, I was walking and praying outside in the street, and then it was so weird. It was like multitask. Like I was walking in Paris, I was praying, and then for a good couple of minutes, I saw myself in Korea, and it was cold outside. And I was doing this in the summer. I was praying, still in the month of June. Um, and at that time, I wasn't sure if it was me in Korea or if it was in the place of somebody else. But yeah, all of the images, three images, and this, I recorded this in my journal because it was just I never experienced something like this before, and it was quite vivid. Um, so that happened, uh, and then 6 weeks later, from when I saw Jesus through Fred, I heard a voice in my head over and over again in French saying "Il faut pas tarder, il faut pas tarder, il faut pas tarder." It was like it was on repeat in my head. I was like, oh, it was to a point where it was kind of annoying. And this was the time where I was on vacation with my ex, and I was like, God, okay, like if you want me to end the relationship, I'll do it, but not now. I'm on vacation. I'm processing through so many things. I'll do it when I go back to Paris. I promise. And it was kind of funny because when I said that, God gave me this peace. But at the same time, God was like, okay, you better do it. I'll give you this peace, but you better do it. Um, and so, yeah, I go, we go back to Paris after our vacation. And on the 6th of August, I ended my relationship. Um, and of course, this was one of the most excruciating, the most painful event that I've ever went through. But at the same time, which makes no sense whatsoever, at the same time, I felt this immense peace and joy that was poured over me, which was completely independent of my earthly circumstance. It was so weird. It was so paradoxical and very polarizing of what I was going through. Um, and after that day, we have decided not to see each other for 2 weeks, just so that we can just process things and sort things out. And and of course, the next thing that was on our minds was the living situation because we were living together. So we were like, yeah, so who stays and who goes? And then God was like, and I was stressing over this, and God was like, I'll take care of that. You focus on me, and everything will fall into place. And so we meet after 2 weeks, and Flavien, so my ex, his name is Flavien, he really liked the apartment, and he expressed a strong interest that he wanted to stay. And so I was like, okay, it's meant to be. And so while I was looking for apartments, Flavien really wanted to understand why he just wanted to understand why because he couldn't understand my decision, which makes sense. And Flavien, for him, and I think he's pretty French. Anything that's spiritual or anything related to do with religion, it's it's uncharted territory. Let's just put it that way. It's just, yeah, he just couldn't wrap his mind around a lot of things as I was sharing, like what I have seen, what has been revealed to me over this past summer. And I kind of encouraged him, for a person that's non-spiritual, I really encouraged him to see his dad, because his dad is the only person in his family who is spiritual, and he's Buddhist in his own way. And Flavien, he kind of took this as an opportunity to make a bet, and he was like, okay, I'll see my dad, and in exchange, I want you to see a psychologist. And I knew where he was going with this, because of course, he wants to make sure that my decision, he wanted to have a sense of assurance that it was not impulsive, it was not, yeah, that it was just not impulsive, that I was not, you know, yeah, that my decision was well thought through. So I was like, okay, that's fine. That's a fair agreement. And so he talks to his dad about it, and it's interesting because the question that his dad wanted to ask me was, when he heard these voices from God, is it the exact same voice when he heard it the previous times? Because I shared with Flavien what I've experienced during the Paris terrorist attacks in 2015. Because for me, that was the very first time where I had something a supernatural experience with God. And to give you context what that happened, so 2015, in the fall, that was when I was studying abroad in France. And out of all the weekends I chose to come up to Paris, it was the weekend of the terrorist attack. So I arrived to Paris on Friday evening to visit a friend, and my friend, she was like, hey, I'm meeting with friends at a restaurant, we can meet each other there before we go to my apartment. And I was like, cool, just give me the address and I'll just find you. And of course, at the time, I didn't know the Paris metro system at all. I totally relied on Google. And for those of you who don't know the city of Paris, it's saturated with metro stations. Like sometimes it's, rather than making certain transfers, it's just easy to just like leave at certain stations and you just walk to your destination. And so that's what I wanted to do. And I tried to not make the transfer, so I wanted to leave at a particular station. And it was so weird. So as my foot touched the stairs to get out of the station, I had this immense pain in my stomach. It was so painful. And all of a sudden, I heard like this sort of voice saying, make the transfer, make the transfer. And I was so confused. I was like, whoa, like, where is this coming from? Why am I in pain? I did not eat. Like, it's not food poisoning. What is going on? And for some reason, it's just like, I have to listen to this. And so the moment my foot lifted, like, didn't touch the stairs anymore to leave the station, the pain was instantaneously gone. And so I make the transfer, and I get off at the station that Google told me to, and I go to the restaurant, and I see my friend, and then a couple minutes later, everybody's phones go berserk. Like, everybody got an alert from the government saying, hey, there has been a shooting at a rock concert venue. And it turns out that we were not too far from Bataclan. And I was just trembling because I was like, wow, had I gotten off of that station, I could have seen certain things. And so going back to Flavien's dad, when he asked me, was it the voices that you've been hearing this summer leading up to your decision to end the relationship, was it the exact same voice as before? And I was like, yeah, hands down. It's the exact same person. I know this person. And of course, Flavien, he couldn't argue. Like, he couldn't argue with my testimony. But I was so sure, like, this is the exact same person that's been speaking to me. And of course, to respect my end of the deal, I went to see a psychologist. It's my first psychology session ever in my life, and I literally paid 50 euros to share my testimony with Jesus. And in fact, it was actually me not begging, but like asking the psychologist, so do you see any red flags? I mean, I wanted to like ask her like, am I crazy? Like, what do you think? And repeatedly she was like, I honestly don't see the need for us to have a second session. I don't see anything that's wrong with your decision. Um, like she really concluded my testimony to be something that is sound. Like she didn't see anything odd. And of course, when I shared this with Flavien, like, yeah, he was super sad. Of course, like I think the answer that I shared with him after the psychology session, it was something that he did not. It was not the outcome that he had hoped, and of course, he's losing me. So it was something painful for him to see this unfold. And so that happened, and then and so back to the living situation. I was kind of stressed out because this was the time where the back to school season was kicking. I mean, it's the month of August, so like in major cities, most of the studios in small apartments are already taken because usually you do that early summer. And also with the whole ecological transition that's been going on, like a lot of apartments that were in the market, it's very reduced just because a lot of landlords have either sold their apartments or they're renovating it in order for it to be more ecologically performant. Um, and I was like, God, you know, all the riches, all the resources on this planet, they belong to you. You led me, um, you brought me out here this far. Like, you're not gonna, you're not gonna abandon me halfway. Like, you're gonna do something. Um, and so yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna do another video, so bear with me.